What's up, guys? It's Jumbo today um for your description and stuff based on the book of Judges. So the book of Judges for today. So we're reading with this new so last week was Joshua. This today is Judges, and the book of Judges probably written around 800 to 700 BC, and this is using stories from a much earlier time. And this is what you need to know about the book of Judges. The story told in Judges takes us on from the death of Joshua. The Israelites had arrived in the promised land, but even when God had given them everything they asked for, they still found it easy to forget God. So God raised up leaders called judges to unite the nation and remind them who they served. So it's technically like to to unite the nation. So judges want to. It's quite crazy to say that nowadays they're called judges when you go to court because they want to unite the nation and not to doing bad and to sorting good from bad, which is sort of a great way to put it, really. That they will put there to worship God and they will put there, to remind them who they served, like they served God and not the world. It says however, God's people are stuck in a cycle. They reject God, and God would punish them, and that they would cry out. And God would send a leader to rescue them, and then this would start all over again. What sounds really interesting, this does. Sounds a very interesting book, Judges does. And it talks about that I like the fact of judges coming together to unite the nation and remind them that they serve God. I think nowadays in the world we need that. We need someone to unite us and for us to remind us that we are from God and we should be serving God. It's a great thing to have in those days, because as they said, the cycle will start again. They said they reject God, God will punish them, they will cry out, and then God would send the lead to rescue them, and this happened again. That's why it calls judges, not judge. Judges, because it says it will start over and over and over and over again. A bit like a monarchy. They would start with one, they would do bad, they'll cry out to God, start again. This would be repeatedly starting again and again and again, which is literally, if you read the book of Judges, you can see why they sent Jesus, and why they would have sent Jesus in biblical times, because they needed a leader to lead them. Because everyone thought when Jesus came, he would be a massive leader, warrior who would fight battles and win many battles with Israel, but he wasn't like that. He was better than that, and he didn't do that. So yeah, this is why you should read the book of Judges. The book of Judges includes some epic stories that could be each made into its own feature film. Here we begin to learn what the world looks like when people, rather than God, are in charge. If you want to learn some lessons about leadership, both good and bad, and what happens when we step away from God's guidelines for the right living, this is a great book. If you're a leader, you want to become a leader, and you want to know good from bad, you should read Judges. Because if you want to be a youth leader, I don't know, maybe Book of Judges is good for you. It talks about great leadership and great stuff. So, yeah, it's a timeline. It's 1200 BC. God appoints judges. Deborah, Gideon, then Samson. I know about Samson. Samson was very strong, I believe. Samson was one of the strongest ever people and had long hair. And Gideon, I've heard of Gideon and Deborah, but I've not looked into them. I've heard of Samson, and he was a very strong person, maybe even the strongest. Yeah, that's the Book of Judges, and we're getting to the segment of we go into a random page in the Book of Judges. So the Book of Judges, random verse is this one. Boom. He said to Samson, I thought you hated her, so I gave her to your friend. But her younger sister is prettier anyway. You can have her instead. What? This is as I said last time, this is one of those books where it doesn't make sense out of context. So I'm going to read the whole entire. That was Judges, chapter 15, verse 2. So I'm going to read all of that and see what sense it made. Sometime later, Samson went to visit his wife during the wheat harvest and took her a young goat. He said to her father, I want to go to my wife's room, but he wouldn't let him go in. He said to Samson, I thought you hated her. So I gave her to your friend. But her younger sister is prettier anyway, so you can have her instead. So it's saying Samson went back home and wants to go in his wife's room, but his dad, is it his dad? Yeah, so Samson said to his wife's father, I want to go in to my wife's room. But it's like, dad's like, no, you can't go into your dad's room, into your wife's room, because I've gave her away to someone else. That is very, very bad. And then he goes on to say, don't worry, her younger sister's pretty anyway. You can have her instead. If Samson liked this woman, oh wow. Then Samson said, this time I'm not going to be responsible for what I do to the Philistines. So he went and caught 300 foxes, 2 by 2. He tied their tails together and put torches in the knots. Then he set fire to the torches and let the foxes loose in the Philistine cornfields. In this way, he burnt up not only the corn that had been harvested, but also the corn that was still in the fields and the olive orchard as well. This is a great, very interesting chapter. I always say this, but Judges is a great read. I don't think it's that long. No, let's see how much chapters. Only 22 chapters, and I might read it now soon because it looks really interesting. Talking about Samson and his wife and So that was your description about the Book of Judges. My name's Jumbo, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.